Final non-district tune-up for the John Tyler Lions coming up on Thursday night at Trinity Mother Frances Roll Stadium. A return match against Tigre of Mexico. And Coach Ricklan Holmes will talk about that here in just a moment. The Lions are 2-2 going into this effort after losing to this past Friday night to a very good Mesquite Horn team at Trinity Mother Frances Roll Stadium, 47-14. Of course, the Lions also beat Robert E. Lee 44-0, and it's been an interesting non-district so far, Coach Holmes. But I listened to you after the game on our radio station Friday night, and after that Horn game, you liked nothing about that ball game right after it was over, did you?
Oh, no, and it had nothing to do with the score, 47-17. It had nothing to do with the score. It just had to do with everything, how my kids played that night. I just don't really think they showed up to the game, and they took care of their business like they were supposed to take care of. You know, with the week of practice that we did have, I felt real confident coming into that game with the game plan that we had and the way that the kids were responding to it. But, you know, anything can happen when the lights come on, and, you know, people can say, hey, it had to do with the weather, it had to do with all that good stuff, but it had nothing to do with the weather. It had nothing to do with anything that Mesquite Horn done to us per se. It had everything to do with how the team came out there and performed.
And did it have anything to do with the league game the week before, do you think?
You know, I would say that, you know, but, you know, the way the kids practiced that week, it didn't seem that way. Mm-hmm. So that's why I can't really say it had anything to do with the big win. But like I told them coming out of that league game, I said, y'all got to learn how to handle success. You know, you got to be that team that knows that when they go to football games, they expect to win. And to do that, you got to make sure you prepare yourself, first of all. That comes with, you know, practicing hard throughout the week. That comes with making sure that you do everything that you need to do to prepare for that game, whether it's Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. And I felt that, you know, we had came to that point. But then, like I said, you know, when we showed up Friday, it was a totally different team. So.
And last year's team did know how to do that, didn't they?
They did. But, you know, they had some guys on that team that knew how to be some leaders. And right now, we're still searching for some guys to be some leaders right now.
By the way, before we get to this year's team, University of Houston beat Rice on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
And Greg Ward scored a touchdown.
No, he got close to scoring a touchdown. Yeah, he got down on the 1 yard line. He done a phenomenal job.
Was he playing wide receiver?
He played quarterback.
Quarterback,
yes.
Okay.
He came in the court. He came in the game, and he was basically the game changer that day, man. Because not only did he spark the offense and have them start moving the ball, but he also gave the backup, the other quarterback that started the game, gave him a little bit more incentive to do better in the game.
And Tyus Bowser. Was he playing linebacker or defensive end?
He played defensive end, and he
had an interception, right?
Yes, he was giving that right tackle all he could get all night.
Well, we know he can do that, right?
Yes, sir, most definitely.
Well, that's great. So the Lions already making an impact. Of course, there are a number of them, including Chris Hackett at TCU and Tristan Wade at UT San Antonio. A bunch of kids making an impact right now. But it's good to see those two guys because what great kids, both of them, right?
Both of them. And, you know, that whole senior class was a bunch of good kids. Just like the senior class I got this year. You know, those kids, they're really good kids. You know, they all are, you know, non-confrontational type of kids. But the difference between last year's group and this year's seniors is this year's senior has to learn how to be seniors. They have to learn how to be those leaders. You know, when things are starting to go wrong, they have to step to the forefront. And that's something that we steady getting them to do each week.
And I know in your field house, there's much attention is paid to John Tyler's past. The great players who've come and gone and have gone on to do other things. So you make these guys aware pretty regularly about what their guys like Greg Ward and Tyus Bowser are doing at the next level, don't you?
Most definitely. It has nothing to do with just Greg and Tyus. It has to do with, you know, 20 years before them. It started with Earl and those guys before them.
Yeah.
You got to understand that you are more than just yourself when you play at John Tyler High School. You are a John Tyler line through and through. And you not only represent the 2013 class season, but you represent the season before that. And they have to understand that, you know, it's bigger than them.
And all right, let's talk about the Horn game. First of all, Horn's pretty good.
They are. They were good last year, you know, and we snuck by on 35-30 last year with a loaded team that I did have this year. I felt we matched up well with them. You know, as far as what we done on defense and what we done on offense versus what they do. We knew they was going to be talented. We knew they were going to be big from last year because they had a lot of guys that returned. And with that came experience. And, you know, I think that if our kids would have just showed up a little bit better than what they did, and perform like they had been doing in practice, we would have gave ourselves a chance to come out victorious in that game Friday.
What'd you like about the game, first of all? Anything go well that you liked?
Special teams is being consistent. We're steady improving in that area. We're getting a lot better in our kicking game to where I can, I have a lot more trust in my kickers within a certain range now. I know that, we get to this point, we can at least get 3 points on the game. My defensive front with Braylon Jones, hey, that kid is a sensational sophomore right now, and I hope he continues to get better. If he continues to work like he is, he will. And then on offense side of the ball, we have those playmakers, and I understand that more and more each week that those guys can actually be just as good as the Freds and the Liggins and the Woods and, the Darian Flowers that just left. So I feel a lot more comfortable with those guys on the field.
What didn't happen Friday night specifically that you didn't like?
Main thing on offense was sustaining blocks. We got to be able to run the ball, and to be able to do that, you got to, your linemen got to get latched on and keep driving those feet and recreate another line of scrimmage. We didn't do that against Horn. And then on defense side of the ball, it was just simple. We lined up great. We was where we were supposed to be, but the only thing we did not do, we did not tackle. We missed way too many tackles Friday against Mesquite Horn, which is another great team that we played within our buzzsaw of a five-game preseason. But I like that it mentally gave us another aspect to look at, as far as a physical and talented team, later on down the line that we're probably going to end up facing. And that's what you do with the preseason. You load it up to where you want to build a little confidence in your team, let them know that they can be successful, but at the same time, you don't want to cheat them and let them think that everybody's going to be easy. You start out with Lufkin, 5A, they're going to be good. Then you come back and you go against state finalists,
right,
against Lancaster.
Beat them.
Now you come back to the most improved Robbie Lee team from last year. Going into this year, they was 2-0 before they played us. Yep. They're steady improving. They're going back to that old Lee 5A team where they're starting to be really good. And then you come back and now you play Mesquite Horn, which is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Not a gimme in the bunch, right?
Oh yeah, it's not a gimme in the bunch. And even coming with the team we're about to play now, the Tigres team, they're one of those teams that always play for their Mexico national championship every year. So they're no slouch either. And they've came to the state several years and beat some teams here.
Yeah, they come alive. We'll talk about that coming up in a moment. As always, Coach Holmes brings along video of the game against Horn this past Friday night. It was, of course, a very rainy Friday, but thankfully the turf at Trinity Mother Frances Rose Stadium was able to handle it, and the game went off as scheduled. And so why don't we take a look at some of the video of the 47-17 Horn victory. Here you are defensively, Coach.
Yeah.
Big play there. Who got that?
That was just Xavier Reese coming off the edge. That guy right there, he's starting to understand his position a little bit better. He's still a little raw, but with his athletic ability, he's able to overcompensate for some of the.
And that's Tyus's old spot, right?
Yes. Yes, it is.
So that's big shoes to fill.
Big shoes to fill, but he wore a size 16, so he'd be okay.
Okay. All right. Nice play.
This is one thing that I've learned about our team, and it shows every week, is that we are really good at throwing the ball. We are really good at throwing the ball, and when you buy time for Gio back there to pick apart the defense with the skilled guys that we do have, and offensive line is doing a great job blocking, but we still have to be able to run the ball to be a state championship team.
Has he gotten better at staying in the pocket like you'd hoped?
He is. His decision-making process is getting better each week. He's starting to learn and trust his line and understand that, hey, all I have to do is sit back there, find an open guy and throw it to him. Football is simple. I think sometimes as coaches we try to make it a little bit harder than what it is with all these different schemes and fronts and plays that we draw up in our head. But it's really just simple.
Now you completed a pass earlier to Nick Kane, and here's another one.
Yeah. Nick is going to be one of those electrifying receivers. Like I tell people, hey, we got some guys here that can really play.
What's the play here? What's the intent of this play?
Basically what it was to do is to find some space, what they call an open grass. And then once you throw it to him, that's what he's supposed to do with it. Make his own move, get upfield, and find his way towards the end zone.
Is the route set, or is it kind of a read type thing?
That's a set route.
Okay. Nice play here.
That was Isaac Warren on the play.
wide angle version of this. Ike had an interception in the first game, I think, of the season.
Yes, he did.
And he's a junior, too.
And he's a junior also.
Here's McCollister.
Throwing it to Nick Kane again.
Nick had a big night, over 100 yards receiving.
Yes, he did.
And it takes a special kind of guy to catch that slant, because chances are you're going to get hit.
Because somebody's coming from the inside.
Yeah.
So you better have your head on the swivel.
And you're looking at the ball, and you don't see everybody coming, so that takes a certain amount of courage to be able to do that. There you go. Who was this?
I believe that's thrown to Nick again.
Nick again.
Nice little play action pass read right here by Gio. Roll out to his right, and hey, make sure that Nick continues to work upfield so he can dump it over that corner's head right in that hole between him and the safety. And
they have to respect Reggie.
You got to respect
and
him.
McCollister. Here's Reggie here.
As a matter of fact, that's McDuff.
Okay, Aaron McDuff. Okay. I haven't seen
McDuff
much of McDuff this year.
Yeah. That's because McDuff he's been dealing with an injury, a growing injury that occurred during the spring, but he's getting to the point now to where we can start putting him out there a little bit more and have him ready for district. Because like you say, these preseason games are tune-up games, getting you ready for that second season, which is that district season.
He's listed as your number 2 tailback.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he'll see a lot more action as we progress through district because, like I said, his growing is getting to the point to where we now know that he's able to do what we need him to do.
But again, remember, the numbers on the running game, only 84 yards unofficially, so that's not nearly what you're looking for. That balance is not what you're looking for.
It's not it. Anytime you get to the 100 and above range for running with the 200-plus yards that we are passing, that's what we're really trying to make sure we get in that range and stay in that range, because that lets us know that we're controlling the clock, we're eating up yardage, but at the same time, we're in control of the football game.
Were you pleased penalty-wise? Looked like there were 6 penalties. Were you pleased with that discipline?
Yeah, that shows a little bit more discipline, than we had during the previous 3 games. Going into this game, just letting us know and understand that, hey, penalties can't kill us and they can't take away drives for us.
And other areas that you're really looking to improve on right now?
Right now, just the offensive line and the running game. That right there, we have to be more dominant in that area. And then on the defense side of the ball, we got to be better tacklers. We can't be just that defense that's going to line up there and stuff everybody in the backfield and just think they're going to just drop because we touched them. No, you got to wrap these guys up. You got to make sure they get all the way to the ground. And while one person wraps up, there ought to be 10 other guys coming.
The rest of the teams you play, are they mostly going to be throwing football teams?
They all a little balanced, except for our last game against White House. They've throwing the ball maybe 30, 40 times a game.
Yeah.
Everybody else is pretty balanced. I know Corsicana, they like to stick it up in there a little bit and run it, but they also are honest in the pass game, which is our first district game. Lindell's going to throw the ball a little bit. I know Nacogdoches is having some success with throwing the ball, but they also been averaging about 125, 130 yards a game rushing. So they're going to be able to move the ball also. And then, on the other side with Jacksonville, they're going to throw the ball. They had that seasoned quarterback back there. I think they've been able to find them some receivers to throw it to. So I look for them to be a little more successful than they have during the preseason.
You played for Allen Wilson, and JT rarely ever threw the ball.
Yeah.
Pitch left, pitch right, handed up the middle, throw 4 or 5 times a ball game. Given if everybody executes their job, could you still win that way?
Right now, yeah. I believe we could. I believe you could because it takes away that factor of the clock.
Yeah.
Because that clock is steady moving versus when you're throwing it, it's always stopping. And then, with the positive yardage that you do get, it's steady inching and steady inching towards that goal line. That wears defenses out.
It's what you guys used to do.
That's what we used to do, most definitely. From start to finish, we used to eat the clock up from first quarter all the way to fourth quarter.
In a 48-minute high school football game, when things were rolling, you'd have the ball 30 of the 48 minutes back in those days, right?
Yeah, and I think we averaged around – I remember watching film one time during the first round of playoffs. we was sitting there watching film. We was counting the plays, and I think it was somewhere around 75 to 78 plays total
for the game.
For the game.
For both teams.
Yeah, for both teams. But you know that came with the way that we was running the ball. You know, it didn't take 15 plays to score. You know, because that clock step, step kept moving, kept going forward. And you know, hey, we may have ran 12 plays to score, but we took off about 8 minutes on the clock.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Burn up a half, most of a quarter.
Burn up a whole half, you know, maybe on 1 or 2 drives. So, you know, that I think it could be done. It's a lot of teams in the state of Texas that are doing that, like Katy.
Right.
Katy is still.
Well, it's hard to prepare for now because everybody's throwing it all over the lot. It's kind of hard to prepare for, isn't it?
And it's fun to see, and it's fun to watch. I tell our offense all the time, I like the way that we throw the ball around. I think that we can be real successful doing it. I know that we can be real successful doing it. But at the same time, we have to be able to run the ball, not when we need to run it, but when we want to run it. So.
And really there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, all this passing offense, it really wasn't invented in the last 5 or 6 years.
No.
Teams have been doing that off and on.
They've been doing it for a long time. Even when back in the 90s when we was running the ball a lot. We faced a lot of teams that passed the ball a lot. Matter of fact, the semifinal team that we played against Flower Mound Marcus, you know, they threw the ball 35 times that day. You know, so this passing, this whole offense, spread offense, it's nothing really new. It just came to light, you know, within the past maybe 10 years because of what Texas Tech was doing. Along with the Iowa teams and stuff like that. So that's when it really started coming to light.
But what it does do, there is a way you can run out of that. Just because the guys line up in the shotgun doesn't mean that some of the option principles that you guys used to run, some of that's still in the offense.
Yeah, most definitely. Look at Oregon. Look at the way Oregon offense used to run, and now the Philadelphia offense. Yeah. They still run the ball substantially, but they just do it out the spread.
Right, and people see that spread, see that shotgun and think you're throwing the ball every time, but that's not necessarily the case.
That's not necessarily the case. It's not necessarily the case.
But everybody in the district pretty much is running out. Even Longview, I mean, in 5A, they're pretty much all doing that. But in 4A, especially in 4A, most everybody's running out of the shotgun, aren't they? Is there anybody that's not in your district?
No, I don't think it is. And I think it has a lot to do with the skill set of kids that you have on the front line. Those kids are just not as massive and as strong as they used to be back then, you know, when we had the Chris Ciceros, you know, the Michael Olivers. Those guys right there were 6'4", 6'2", 300-pound plus, and, you know, they were very, very athletic. Most guys this day and age that are around that range, you know, they're not that way in high school. They just start get that way when they get to college, and then they get to the pros. And, you know, if you look at most pro guys, they're all not really, really big. They're tall, but they're not massively huge.
They need to move.
Yeah, they're able to move. They're able to move. And, you know, that's the difference between the kids of the day and the kids of yesterday.
Let's talk about Tigres. How did this game, for folks not familiar, how did this game come about? They're a club team from Mexico, right? Who are they?
Well, what they are, they're a national Mexico powerhouse that's out of the nation of Mexico. And they are one of the 3 teams that actually travel to the United States and play football. And then they go back home and then they finish their season, which is their national, I guess you would say, our state playoff type of deal. And they do the same thing in Mexico. And like I said, they're one of the 3 teams that have actually came to the States and beat some guys here. And not just some, you know, some shabby teams. They actually going to beat some pretty substantial teams before.
Do they, when they come up here, do they stay or do they go home and come back each week?
Well, actually, this week they will come up here Wednesday afternoon. They get here Wednesday afternoon, and they'll check into a hotel here. And they'll stay the night, and then they'll play us Thursday. And then after the game Thursday, they'll get on the bus and they'll head back to Mexico. Yeah,
okay. So that and they'll play a full schedule of games like that. Some American teams, and then they'll go back to Mexico and play.
Well, actually,
down there,
actually, we're their last American team that they played before they start their season in Mexico.
All right, what's their record coming in?
Right now, they're 0-3. Okay. They did not play last week because of some rain situation. You know how the rain was in the state of Texas last week, so they did not get to play last week. But we are the last team on their schedule.
Who have they played?
They started out with a team called Barber Hill.
Barbers Hill.
That was the first. That was the first team that they played. Then they played Coppers Cove, and then they played Colleen Shoemaker.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they played some pretty good size.
They have played some pretty good teams.
What do they do?
They're spread offense. You know, just like we talked about, it's one of them evolving deals to where everybody's starting to do it. They are able to throw the ball a little bit. They have some very good skilled receivers, just like they did last year. A big offensive line, so they're able to run the ball.
And as I recall from last year, the game was raining that night.
Oh, it was a monsoon.
And you beat them, but it wasn't overwhelming, was it?
Oh no. It was a 20-10 game against them and us last year. We came out of the monsoon, soaking wet, but we came out with a victory.
And you guys were a little bit underwhelmed by the whole night, weren't they, last year?
Oh, most definitely. But like I said, you know, facing teams like this early, it gives you that deal to where now you understand that, hey, we have already faced this before. So now we know how to handle it. Because we didn't do this the first time, let's make sure we do it the second time.
How did you get in touch with them? And did they call you, or did you call them when you arranged the game?
It started after the 2011 season was over with. We had to go, when we was going to another district, realignment.
You needed a game, didn't you?
We had to find a 10th game. And at that time, we couldn't, everybody else's schedule was filled up. We gave a call to Copper's Cove, and Copper's Cove gave us the contact number to Tigres. And that's how we end up getting this game lined up.
All right, so are they predominantly a Hispanic team, or do they have American kids? Okay.
They're all Hispanic team. I think it's only one person on that team that speaks English, and that is one of the assistant coaches that I've talked to back and forth.
And it does speak to the popularity of football, though, that of the game that some teams in Mexico would just start up football teams and start playing.
And it's not just Mexico. They have football teams in China. They have football teams in Africa. They have football teams everywhere. It's just that, you know, they're able to actually travel to the United States and show what they've learned about football and what they're able to do playing football.
And is there a chance you'll keep the series going? Just depends on what.
It just depends on how our district rolls out. You know, this next realignment and where we fall and where we sit. I know that, you know, we would like to keep playing Lufkin every year. That's always a good game to play.
Oh, sure.
We'll always play Lee every year. Would like to throw, you know, Longview back in the mix. You know, instead of scrimmaging, we'd like to play them in a game type situation because, like I said, facing those type of teams early in the year get you ready for the latter part of the year.
Why did you play Longview this year? It's been 2 years since you played. You scrimmage them every year.
Yeah.
What happened on that
Well,
game?
when we redone the schedule, when they would have been able to fit in and play us was the time that we was getting ready to play Lee.
Okay.
So that's what knocked them out of getting onto our schedule going into the 2012 season.
Well, again, you get to scrimmage them every year, so you still get to see them.
You still get to see them.
But you and I were talking before the show started. Realignment. Now, we're at the end of September right now. Next month is the annual snapshot, or the biennial. Every 2 years, the UIL picks a day in October. Do you know the day, by the way?
I think it's the second week in October.
Okay,
when they do
like on a Tuesday or something. They basically, for those not familiar, they basically take a snapshot, whatever the enrollment is that day, is what's used to figure the districts.
Yes. And then
for the coming 2 years.
And then the way that we're doing the scheduling deal, I guess, as far as what class that you fall in, they're going to start at the top with the highest school. And then they're going to work their way all the way down to the lowest number of enrollment for each school. And then they're going to start chopping it off at like 115 schools, 115, 115. And whatever falls within that first 115 is 6A, then 5A, then 4A, then 3A, and so on.
So you'll be, you feel like that John Tyler will be called. Now, the reason they're calling you 5A is because they're now going to call six-man football Class A.
Yes.
So they're just changing the naming.
Yes.
What's now 5A will become 6A.
Yes.
But
we'll
your
actually
perfect
be
world,
grouped in with a couple of teams that were 5A this year.
And
so
you'd love for Robert E. Lee to be back in with you.
It could possibly happen. It all, like I said, it all depends on that snapshot enrollment and where everybody falls.
Just now that you've played, this is your last non-district tune-up. So just talk a little bit about the importance of looking good Thursday night.
Oh, just making sure that we make sure that we correct everything that we've had within the first 4 games and make sure that we don't make those same mistakes going into this 5th game, because that bye week, you don't want to really focus on a lot of things that you've done negative. You want to make sure that you improve on the positives, make sure you get real tight on everything that you need to do as far as football fundamental goes. And make sure everybody's healthy first of all.
Is everybody healthy for you
Right now, everybody's healthy. You know, knock on wood, we don't have any major injuries. We got a couple of bumps and bruises, but that comes with football.
So that's good. I mean, to get through 4 weeks.
Especially with the schedule we've had.
Yeah, and the schedule you've had. What do you think about the district just overall from what you've seen and heard about the other teams in the district?
Pleasant surprise that Nacogdoches has been as successful as they are right now. I know that Coach Rios is going to do a good job turning their program around, but the success that I'm seeing right now from them right now, you know, that lets us know that, hey, you got to go in that game with your head on, right? Then you have White House, you know. They've played some teams that I think have tested them in some aspects on the football field. Not quite sure on how strong they were compared to, you know, maybe the schedule of Nacogdoches or us or Lindale or Corsicana, or, you know, such and such. So I'm interested to see how they play this week against Carthage. I think them going against Carthage, being as loaded as they are this year, that's going to let you know the true strength of, you know, how they're going to fare in our district.
What about playing on Thursday night? This is a Thursday night game this week.
Kind of remind you about playing like JV games and freshman games. You know, you get to play on Thursday, get it over with early. And it makes for a long weekend for my kids, you know, giving them time to actually start that bye week off a little bit earlier than playing. Now we get to focus in on a lot of little things that we need to take care of during the season, but we really didn't have the time because we was preparing for each game. Now you get to slow things down.
Yeah, you'll get a pretty good, because you're off next week before district plays. Not off per se, you'll still be working, but you won't have a game to prepare for. So there's stuff you can kind of go back to the drawing board a little bit.
Oh, most definitely. And a lot of stuff that we plan on doing during the bye week, we're actually going to start working on some of that stuff this week, just to make sure that, you know, hey, this is what we really want to see versus what we thought that we wanted to see.
So what do you expect out of Tigris this time around?
Physical team, just like we did last year. The weather will be a lot much better than it was last year. So they're going to be able to throw the ball a little bit more than they did last year. I don't really think they felt as comfortable throwing the ball in the rain as we did last year. So I expect them to put the ball a little bit more in the air this year than they did last year.
Most pleasant surprise so far for you? What's it been?
Just the overall success of the offense. You know, coming into this year, you know, losing all the guys that we lost off of that phenomenal offense last year and seeing them able to move the ball the way that they are, that's a very pleasant surprise, and I'm very, I guess you could say I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that right now.
And again,
the defense.
And the defense.
Defense has been, you know, for the most part, very, very, very stout. Being able to make some plays when needed. But like I said, we can't miss tackles if we want to beat good teams.
All right, so Thursday night. Remember, it's not a Friday night game. This is a Thursday night game with Tigris at Trinity Mother Frances Rose Stadium. It still starts at 7:30, but don't show up Friday night because you'll be late. Thursday night, 7:30, Trinity Mother Frances Rose Stadium, JT's final non-district tune-up. Should be a lot of fun against this Tigris team coming up this week, and Coach Holmes and the Lions need and deserve your support. And look forward to seeing you out at the stadium on Thursday night when the Lions take on Tigre of Mexico at 7:30. For Coach Holmes, I'm Bill Coates. Thanks for joining us.